Hello student, myself Dr. Vaibhavi Patil from Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samaj, S.V.K.T College, Arts, Commerce and Science, Diwali Camp, Nasik. Student, we take today's lecture on class TYBSc, semester 5th, Botany, paper 1st, Cryptogamic Botany, and today's topic is the Algae part 3. See student, in last lecture we see the topic general outline classification of the plant kingdom. This general outline classification of plant kingdom is divided into the two sub-kingdom. First one is the cryptogams and second one is the phanerogams. In a cryptogams, all the cryptogamic or the thalloid structure of the plants are present in a cryptogams. The cryptogams means what? The gametes are hidden. That's why to call the cryptogams. And in phanerogams, all gametes are present in naked or the naked eyes. That's why it is a phanerogams. All these are flowering plants. That's why it is a phanerogams. And in cryptogams, all forms or the all taxa of the plants are non-flowering. That's why it is in a cryptogams. These are see in our last lecture. This next one is the cryptogams. We focus on the cryptogams. In a cryptogams are divided into the three divisions. First one is the Thalophyta, Bryophyta and Pteridophyta. And phanerogams are divided into the two divisions. First one is the gymnosperm and the angiosperms. Okay. Then next the Thalophyta. Thallo means what? The plant body is a thalloid in nature. It's not differentiated into the leaves, stem and roots. That's why it is called as the thallophytes, and these thallophytes are also divided into the three classes. First one is the algae, lichen, then next one is the fungi. In Thalophyta means what? The plant body of these three forms is a thalloid in nature. It is not divided into the properly root, stem and leaves. That's why it is present in the thallophytes. All algal forms or the lichens forms or the fungal form are not present. These three structure, first one is the root-like, then second stem-like and leaf-like structure is a totally absent in the thallophytes. That's why these thallophytes having the three classes. First one is the algal. Algal form is not properly developed, the root, stem and leaves, also lichen and the fungi. That's why it is present in a thallophytes. Okay, and we in last lecture we see the algae and the classification of algae with the presence of the means what algae is represented or the classify the fish, and next one is the GM Smith. But in our syllabus TYBSc paper first cryptogamic botany, in algae topic the classification of algae is represented the GM Smith, and this GM Smith 1955, this all the classification is present in our syllabus. That's why in last lecture we see the two classes, and today's lecture we see the two classes one by one. See, in GM Smith 1955 first divide we see in last lecture Cyanophyta, then next one is the Chlorophyta, and today's lecture we see the we see one by one next classes. In session agenda we see first learning objectives of today's lecture, then classification of algae by GM Smith in 1955, then see one by one classes. First one is the Chlorophyta, then Cyanophyta, then Euglenophyta, and last one is the Rhodophyta in today's lecture. Okay, then see one by one learning objective. In a learning objective to study the classification of algae, Say student, in a classification of algae by the Fritsch as well as the G.M. Smith, both the scientists divide the classification of the algae with the help of their pigment, then reserve food material, then the living or the habit or habitat of the algal form, and these classify also the reproductive features. These all features see and classify the algae one by one in a classes. Say, to study the classification of algae by G.M. Smith in 1955 in our syllabus, first we see to study the classification with the regions of the division Cyanophyta. Then next one is to study the classification with regions division Chlorophyta. Then next one is to study classify with the regions of division Euglenophyta. And next and last one is to study the classification with the regions of division Rhodophyta. All these are 4 divisions or the classes of the algae. See, in today's class, and first one is the Chlorophyta, then next one is the Cyanophyta, then Euglenophyta, and last one is the Rhodophyta. One by one we see this classification is divided by the G.M. Smith in 1955. See, all these are classes. We repeat again, these all classes. First one is the Chlorophyta, then Euglenophyta, then next classes is the Parophyta, then Chrysophyta, Phaeophyta, Cyanophyta, and last one is the Rhodophyta. All these are 7 classes are divided with the help of classification of algae by the G.M. Smith in 1955. Is it clear? I will repeat all these are classes because it is very important in our syllabus one by one. First one is the Chlorophyta, then second one is the Euglenophyta, third one is the Parophyta, Chrysophyta, Phaeophyta, Cyanophyta, and Rhodophyta. But in today's lecture we see the 4 classes, and next lecture we see the remaining 3 classes. First one today we see, first one is the Chlorophyta, then Euglenophyta, Cyano, and Rhodophyta. All these are 4 classes. We see the classification of the 4 divisions with the regions. First one is the Cyano, then Chloro, then Rhodo, and Eugleno. All these are 4 classes we see in today's lecture, student. We see in last lecture also the Cyano and Chloro, but I revise in today's lecture because it is a one type of the link. That's why today's lecture we revise the Cyanophyta. First one is the main pigments are Cyanophyta, the main pigment, because the pigments give the colors of the algal forms. This the Cyanophyta also called as the blue-green algae. It is also called as the blue-green algae because of this form of the algae is a bluish in color. And that's why it is known as the Cyanophyta, and this bluish in color give to with the help of pigments. That's why the pigments is too much important in a algal taxa. Say student, in first characteristics of the Cyanophyta, the main pigments are the chlorophyll A, then the chlorophyll B, then the carotenes and the xanthophyll. These 4 pigments is very important in a Cyanophyta because these pigments give to the algal body or give to the algae to colors. These 4 pigments or the pigments of the Cyanophyta give the bluish in color. That's why it is a cyanophytic blue-green algae. These blue-green algae, some species are the primitive in nature. The cell is not properly well developed. These cells do not differentiate in a nucleus and the cell organelles. It is not well developed. It is a primitive type of the cells are present in a Cyanophyta. It is a good example is the nostoc, anabina. It is a good example of the Cyanophyta. Okay. Then next one is the reserve food material is a very important factor also present in algae. This is the reserve food material. Because of these all algae are classified with all these are characters. First one is the pigment, then next one is the reserve food, and also then next one is the cell wall, and next one is the reproductive gametes having a particular characters, and that's why it is divided into the 7 classes. And this G.M. Smith divided all these are factors or all these are characters, see, and divide one by one into the 7 classes. That's why it is important in today's lecture. That's why I am repeat the Cyanophyta and the Chlorophyta, and next one is the Rhodo and Eugleno. Okay, student. Then see, first the general characteristics of the Cyanophyta. First one is the main pigments are the chlorophyll A, then the chlorophyll B, then the carotenes and the xanthophyll. These 4 pigments are present in a Cyanophyta. Okay, then next characteristics or the general characteristics of the Cyanophyta is the cyanophycean granules are present. Some granule structure are present in a cell of the Cyanophyta. For example, nostoc, also anabina, these are good examples. The cyanophycean granules are present in the cells, and the polyglucose store food material is stored food material. These all the reserve food material is stored in the cell, and these are the polyglucose stored food material is present in the cyanophycean algae. Okay, clear? The next characteristics of the Cyanophyta is the cell wall contain the diamino pimmalic acid is present. In a cell wall contain the diamino pimmalic acid is present. It is one type of the peculiar characters present in a Cyanophyta. This cell wall is made up of these are the acid. The glucose, also amine and alines are present in a cell wall content. It is important. Cell wall contain the diamino pimmalic acid, also glucose, then amine and the alines are present in a Cyanophyta taxa or the Cyanophycean algae. Okay, then next one, the flagella are absent. The cell, some algal form, Euglena. These Euglena having a flagella, one or more flagella are present. Also in a Chlorophyta, the flagella is present. But in a Cyanophyta, the general characters having the flagella are totally absent in a Cyanophycean algae. These are important characters of the Cyanophyta. First one is the pigment, then next one is the reserve food material, then next one is the cell wall, and next one is the flagella. These are the 4 peculiar characteristics of the Cyanophyceae. The next one, they are present in fresh water, brackish water. Also it is present in a stagnant water, reserve water, water reservoir. These algal form, these are stagnant water are present, and this the growth is abnormal or the abundant growth is present in a stored water. This also it is present in a salty water, and some are the terrestrial form. These are the terrestrial forms are present in a Cyanophyceae algae. The example is the Microcystus, Crucacus, oscillatoria is the example of the blue-green algae. See in pictures, all these are forms of the Cyanophyceae algae. See student, all these are characters and examples, and one by one character we see in a Cyanophyceae. The next class is the general characteristics of the Chlorophyta. See, first one is the pigment. because the pigments is very important, because these pigments give the color to the algae. That's why in a chlorophyta means what? In the green algae. In cyano means what? Blue green algae, but in a chlorophyta it is a green algae. Green algae to form or the with the help of pigments chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, xanthophyll and carotins is pigments are present in a chlorophyta. That's why it is important. Then next, these pigments are localized in definite plastids. It is a definite plastids present in a chlorophycean algae. It is very important character because these pigments give the color of the algal body. Okay, then reserve food material. This reserve food material is the starch and oil are the stored as a food material or the stored as a reserve food material in a chlorophycean or the chlorophyta forms of the algae. Then the next one is the cell wall. In a cell wall contain the cellulose and some are with the xylins and the mannins is present in the cell wall. But so many algal form of the chlorophycean forms of or the taxa of the algae is contain the cellulose in a green algae. It is a commonly present in a cellulose. Okay. Then next one is the flagellar bodies are present in a chlorophycean. See student, in a Cyanophyta, flagella is absent, but in a chlorophyta, it is a present. Flagella also Euglenophyta, it is also present. See one by one, the flagella body is present with the one to many flagella are present in a chlorophyta. Okay, it's a good example is a chlorella, hydrodiction, volvex, zygnema. So many algae or the so many forms of the chlorophycean algae is present. In a comparative study of the cyano and chloro, see one by one the pigments are very different, and the reserve food material is also different, and then the cell wall is also different, then the flagella it is absent and one more in a chloro in a present. These are the differentiate characteristics are present in a cyano and the chloro. That's why it is divided. With the help of all these are reasons or all these are characteristics of the algae. These are 7 divisions or the 7 division of algal form divided with the help of all these are character. First one is the pigment, then second reserve food material, then third one is the cell wall, also it is a flagella, it is present or absent, and the color of the algae. These are differentiated. See, then in next, see the picture, the chlorella, hydrodiction, volvex and the zygnema, also the spirogyra, so many forms are present. So many forms of the chlorophycean algae see in a picture. Okay, is it clear? Both the class, first one is the cyano and the chloro, it is clear. Then see, in next class is the Euglenophyta. In a Euglenophyta, in today's lecture, we see the properly one by one point. First one is the Euglenophyta. First, the pigment. First pigment, the chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B and carotins and the xanthophyll pigments are present in the Euglenophyta. It is a main or the main characteristics of the Euglenophyta. First, the pigment. The pigment is the chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotins and the xanthophyll pigment is present in a Euglenophyta. Okay, then next one is a reserve food material. In this reserve food material, the store of the food material is a paramylum. Also the starch and the oil. See student, in a chlorophyta it is very different, cyano it is very different and eugleno also it is different. Also pigments is different, also the food material is also different, then the cell wall also is very different in Euglenophyta. It is a totally absent in Euglenophyta, the cell wall is a totally absent, but in the chlorophyta and cyanophyta it is a present, but in a Euglenophyta it is a totally absent. See, the cyanophyta flagella are absent, in chlorophyta flagella are present, but in a Euglenophyta also it is a too much. The number of flagella, number of means what? The 1 to 7 flagella is present in a Euglenophyta. Too much differentiate, no? This Chlorophyta, then the Cyanophyta, then the Euglena. It is a totally different, and that's why it is divided in this way. The G.M. Smith in 1955, and it is very important. That's why I will review these both classes and differentiate with these both classes. First one is the Euglenophyta, and see one more in the next slide. See, in this slide is the Euglenophyta. Euglenophyta main pigments is the chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotenes. It is a different. Carotenes and the xanthophyll pigments is present in a Euglenophyta, but in a stored food material is a very different. First one is the paramylene. Okay, starch and oil is present. It is a oil. It is a one more. The different characteristic of the Euglenophyta. Oil reserve food material is stored in a Euglenophyta. Okay, clear? Then cell wall is a totally absent. Sometime at the time of the exam, the MCQ, Euglenophytes, the cell wall is present or absent. It is very important. Peculiar characteristics of the Euglenophyta. It is a focus, please. It is very important. Cell wall is absent in Euglenophyta. Okay, student. Then next one is the flagellar bodies with 1 to 7 flagella is present. In Cyanophyta, it is absent. In Chlorophyta, it is present. And in flagella of the Euglenophyta is the 1 to 7 flagella is present in Euglenophyta. Okay. See, one by one character and one by one class. See, in all these are peculiar characters and differentiated in this way. This division is also divided into the 3 orders. See, in the order, in next lecture we see the order, up to order division. But in examples is Euglena, is a algae. The Fagus is also good example of the Euglena, Euglenophyta, Fagus, and Euglena is a good example of, and see in the pictures. These are diagram. See the examples of the Euglenophyta. See next class of the algae is derived with the help of G.M. Smith. Next, and in today's lecture, last class is the Rhodophyta. See student, Rhodo means what? Red algae. In cyano, blue-green algae. Chloro, green algae. Eugleno with flagella and the cell wall is absent. And in a Rhodo, it is a red algae. This red algae differentiated with the help of the pigments. See, in Cyanophyta, the cell is prokaryotic in nature. In Chlorophyta, it is a eukaryotic in nature. In Euglenophyta, also it is eukaryotic. But in a Rhodophyta, it is a eukaryotic in nature. Cell is well developed nucleus, and organs of the cells are well developed. That's why the Rhodophyta is a eukaryotic in nature. It is not the prokaryotic. It is a well developed nucleus and the well developed cell organs are present. That's why it is a eukaryotic in nature. Then next one is the pigments. In our Rhodophyta pigments, the chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, then the phycoerythrin. It is a one more different pigment is present in a red algae. That's why it gives the red color. It gives the red color. That's why it is important. This color gives the pigments. And then in algal form, the pigment character is very important. See student, the pigments of the Rhodophyta is the chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, also the phycoerythrin pigments are present in a Rhodophyta algal forms. That's why in picture, see in last pictures, the red color, and it is because aquarium it is a water. Total forms of the algal is present in a water, aquatic in nature. That's why in a picture, see the blue color is water and the red color algal form is present in a rhodophyta with the help of which pigment? Phycoerythrin pigments give the red color. Okay. Then next character is a food storage. Say in food storage or the reserve food material is stored in a plant body, it is a iodine negative starch. It is a very different character. Comparatively the Cyanophyta, Chlorophyta and Euglenophyta, it is a very different. Which one? Iodine and negative starch is present in a rhodophytic algal form. And this important also in medicinal purpose, also in pharmaceuticals industries, also to form the formation of agar. It is a very important food storage material. Important are the peculiar characteristics of the rhodophyta. Okay, student, pigment is very important because this one more different pigment is a phycoerythrin. Phycoerythrin pigment is present in a rhodophyta. That's why to call the rhodophyta or the red algae. Okay. Then the reserve food material is the iodine and the negative starch. Iodine and the negative starch. Okay. Then the cell wall. Third character is the cell wall. See student, in last class Euglenophyta, the cell wall is absent in a Euglenophyta, but in a rhodophyta also the cellulose cell wall is present. In a rhodophyta also it is present in the chlorophyta. Okay now, this cellulose cell wall is present in the rhodophyta or the red algae. See, the next character is the no flagellated cells are totally absent. They means what? The flagella is absent. In a Cyanophyta also it is absent, in Rhodophyta it is also absent. In a Chlorophyta it is present and Euglenophyta also it is present. It is a differentiate characteristics of the Rhodo, Eugleno, Cyano and Chloro. Okay now? That's why it is important. No flagellated cells are present. No flagellated cells are in a Rhodophyta form of algae. Then next character, many marine species are used. It is a total, Rhodophyta is a marine algae. It is present in a sea or the marine. That's why it is a marine algae. It is present in a sea. Okay, that's why many marine species are present in a red algae, and this red algae mainly purpose the thicker. It is a fleshy or the thicker due to their highly mucilaginous. This mucilaginous, because of this mucilaginous form the reserve food material. It is iodine, also negative starch is present, and mucilaginous because it is present in a water or the marine water. And that's why it is a mucilaginous nature. It is a mucilaginous sticky fluid like mucilaginous red in color, and it forms the agar and also the carrageenans. Form the carrageenans. These are characteristics of the Rhodophyta. Say student, in last lecture we see the cyano and chloro, and today's lecture we see the Rhodo and Eugleno. In a Rhodo and Eugleno, in a Eugleno we see the main pigments is a chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotenes and xanthophyll. Okay. In a Rhodophyta is a carotenoids. It's a different pigments is present. And in a store food material exactly we see the paramylene, starch and oil. But in a Rhodophyta it is a iodine. Reserve food material is a iodine and negative starch is present. It is too much difference, and cellulose cell wall is present, but in a Euglenophyta cell wall is absent. Then no flagella, Rhodophyta it is flagella is totally absent, but in a Euglenophyta 1 to 7 flagella is present in a Euglenophyta. It is a differentiate characteristics of the Euglenophyta and the Rhodophyta. Okay, these two classes we study in today's lecture, and revise two classes, cyano and the chloro, and differentiate both the classes. First one is the cyano, then chloro, then rhodo and eugleno. These are differentiate characteristics. That's why we take in for last and today's lecture, because of these differentiated one by one and understand all the concept of the red algae, also blue-green algae, then green algae and euglenoids. Okay, all these are 4 classes are studied in today's lecture, student. See, then today's assignment. See, student, give the classification as per the G.M. Smith in 1955. All these are 7 classes you have to write and classify properly. In assignment, question number first, then the second question is in last assignment we give, the right difference between the Chlorophyta and the Cyanophyta, and today's lecture please write down the difference between the Euglenophyta and Rhodophyta. Okay, and all these are assignment, submit on the Google Classroom. Okay, in summary of today's lecture, first we see one by one division Thalophyta, Bryophyta and Pteridophyta. This Thalophyta is divided into the how many division? How many classes? 3 classes. First one is the algae, then fungi and lichen. Then next we see the classification by the G.M. Smith in 1955. By the G.M. Smith in our syllabus TYBSc paper first, Cryptogamic Botany, and next we see the all 4 classes, general characteristics. First one is the pigment, then next one is the reserve food material, then cell wall, then the flagella and all the reproductive organs also we see in a general characteristics of the class cyano, chloro, eugleno and rhodophyta. Say, student, in next lecture we see the outline classification of algae by G.M. Smith in 1955. All 7 classes we revise. Then next remaining 3 classes we see in next lecture.